Okay, we're going to get started. I'm sure a few more people will join us in a bit, but we'll just get going because we've got a lot to cover in the next hour, and then we'll go from there. So welcome back, everyone. I hope that you guys all had a great break and a happy new year, cats included. We have been going nonstop over the last couple of weeks. Our break was very short, but we did enjoy it. And we've got tons of plans for you guys coming in the next couple of months. And some of you guys have had some updates, but we'll keep going and get everybody up to speed in this call. And then we're joined today by Stacy from Adobe, who's going to briefly talk to us about the Creativity Scholarship. And then as a reminder for all of you guys that are interested, we'll be hosting another session with Stacy tomorrow, a more in-depth overview so you guys can ask any questions and get some tips and tricks from her on how to apply. Sorry. Sorry about that. And yeah, so even if you guys aren't eligible right now for the scholarship, we really do encourage you to join the session tomorrow. You might be eligible in the future, or you might have peers or friends at your organizations that are eligible for the scholarship. So Stacey will be talking a little bit more about that. And then we also have Judy here, who's going to be talking to you guys about the courage of work. So look forward to that. Okay, well, where's it coming up? Should I? Yeah. Okay, before we get to Stacey and Judy, just what's coming up in the next month. We have our Welcome Back session, which is today, right now. We'll also be having another check-in session on January 31st, similar to what we always do bi-weekly. In this session, though, we'll be joined by Maymuna and Kenton, who are going to be running mini workshops to give you guys some tips and tricks on what they've learned so far in their media making journey. And then you guys will have some hours and some time to kind of try out those new skills, and we'll see what you guys come up with. We'll also be giving you guys a little more time to work on the media that you guys have created throughout your workshops. So once it's all submitted, we've seen some really, really great work from you guys, and we're really, really happy and pleased with everything that you guys have done so far. So each of us, as your coordinators, will be giving you guys feedback on all of your pieces, and we'll be giving you 4 hours to kind of implement some feedback, take some time to edit and revise whatever feedback we give you guys, and then we'll be working on our social media posts. So if you haven't already, what we're expecting is that with each one of the media pieces that you guys have created, you'll be also creating some sort of social media post, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've already had a session with Adobe on their sort of social media guidelines, so we'll be expecting you guys to use that. With each of your first sort of social media posts, we do want to see a draft post, just so that we can give you guys feedback before you kind of send it out into the world. And then that'll be about an hour, and then of course we have one more session before the 15th, which will also be joined by Salim and Jordan, who will be hosting their own mini workshops. And throughout the next few months, we'll be expecting sort of each one of you to come and host your own mini workshop, but we'll be working with you in the future to kind of get that done. So that is your month in a glance. Of course, we'll be sending over the tracking sheets so that you guys can keep track of what you're doing along with the monthly report. But if you have not already, we need those sheets. The personalized tracking sheets need to be in by tomorrow at 2 p.m. Please get it done, because that's going to hold back you guys and your organizations for that stipend. We're waiting for that monthly report and personalized tracking sheet so we can send the next installment. Also, if you haven't already, the Creative Journey Journal is due as well. As you guys know, it's technically due today, but we're giving you a few more hours, so get it done. Awesome. And with that, I'm done talking. I've already done too much of it. So, Stacy, if you would like to take it away.
Sure, thank you. So first, I just want to let everybody know I just sent a link through the chat box. So this link will take you to all of the information about the scholarship program. But I wanted to just briefly talk about it, give you a little overview about this opportunity. The Adobe Creativity Scholarships is now entering its year, and I'm noticed a couple of familiar names on this call. So hello, Purnima, and hello, Angelo. I saw you both on here. For those who don't know, Purnima and Angelo have both been awarded scholarships through this program. So we have a couple of actual scholarship recipients on this call. But this scholarship is for, it's open to those of you in the Project 1324 community who will be entering either your first or your second year of an undergraduate program during the 2017-2018 academic year. So that might apply to some of you on this call, or it might apply to some of your friends who are involved with the organizations you are with. And so this scholarship, what it provides is financial assistance for up to 4 years. So it is a renewable program. So for anyone who is looking to receive a bachelor's degree, which usually takes 4 years to complete, this scholarship would be awarded for each of those 4 years. So that is a really nice way to offset a lot of the financial obligations with attending university. Yeah, the link that I sent to you will have a lot of the information that you can go over to learn a little bit more about this program. We do have information available in 9 different languages. I will say that at the moment, the languages other than English that are up on this website still need to be updated on the website. So you'll see dates for this past year still up there for the non-English languages. You can ignore that. That will be updated within the next few days, but the application deadline will be the 6th of March this year. So there's just under 2 months left to apply, so there's still plenty of time, and it's a great time right now to start looking into it and start spreading the word to anyone who you think would be a good fit for this scholarship program right now. So I'll also in this chat box include an email address that you can reach me at if you have any other questions. But otherwise, as was mentioned earlier, we will be having another call tomorrow where I can talk a little bit more about the application process itself. For now, I just wanted to bring it all to your attention and let you know that there's this great opportunity out there that's available for all of you. So with that, I will we'll stop talking and let us move on to the rest of the agenda for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy. And for you guys, whatever Stacy's put in the chat, we'll be following up with an email and also include that information. If you can't make the session tomorrow, but you are really interested, we will be recording it. So we'll post it up in the virtual classroom so that you can take a look at it and get a little more information if you'd like. And of course, with the email, feel free to email Stacy and get a little more information as well. And then with us too, always email us. We always want to hear from you. So thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, and I'm going to be stepping off the call for now, so if anyone does have any questions, the best way to reach me will be email.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Okay, so with that, we're going to move into the next section of this session. We're joined by Judy here, who's going to be talking a little bit about the courage of the artist, and she's going to give a whole background on herself and then take you through a little mini kind of workshop. And yeah, I'll just kind of leave it at that and let you take it away, Judy.
Just wondering if everyone can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see
great.
you though.
Okay, maybe you can tell me how I can activate my video, because I can see it on my own screen. Where do I go?
And is it blue?
Pardon me?
The little webcam, that's our like video icon.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, beside the microphone. If it kind of click it and it should go, there we go. There you are.
That was simpler than I thought it would be. Okay. So thank you to Taking It Global for inviting me to talk to you all today. I have to say this is unprecedented for me to be able to speak to this many people in this many countries. I'm absolutely astonished by that, and I'm thrilled to be with you today. I know you're all working on really important creative projects trying to achieve social change, and I wish you all of the best and you my hearty congratulations on your involvement with these important projects. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges that some artists and creative people face in their everyday lives working on their projects, and the courage that's sometimes needed for you to carry out your work. I want to share some of my perspectives with you just based on my own experience and my experience with artists, and hopefully give you some encouragement and maybe even a little bit of inspiration as you move forward into this new exciting year and as you continue on your creative journeys. So I might be looking down a little bit during my presentation. I have a few notes here, and of course my brain needs a little bit of refreshing. I can't speak off the top of my head for 40 minutes or what have you. I think we'll be at this for about 40 minutes, but what I want to do is have a bit of an interactive session so that at a couple of junctures I'm going to be stopping and asking for your feedback and for your responses to what I'm talking about. So it's really meant to be a bit of a dialogue as opposed to just a talking head. So a little bit more about me. I've spent the last 25 years with artists in Canada, helping develop better supports for artists, helping to promote their work, and often it's been in an environment that hasn't been 100% supportive to artists, where folks around them don't necessarily value their work the way they should. And I myself have dabbled in creative work. I have been known to do a little bit of acting, a little bit of singing, some dancing, some writing, some broadcasting. I love to be in front of the camera. I love to do interviews. None of these things have I done professionally, so I don't claim to be a great artist, but probably the work I'm most proud of is I was the Senior Director of Marketing at Canada's Royal Winnipeg Ballet, which is here in Winnipeg, and it's a world-renowned ballet company, and I was responsible for branding all of our new ballets and for the art direction behind all of our marketing campaigns, which I found to be very creative work, and I really loved it. Now, Jay, if you're still there, we want a slide because sometimes I pretend I'm an artist and I dress up like an artist, and there's if any of you can tell me who that is. Mexican art, a painter, Frida Kahlo, that's who I'm imitating there. And frankly, you know what, those eyebrows are painted on, but I can actually grow the unibrow that Kahlo was so famous for. That's one of my artistic talents. So as a place for us to start today, I wanted to ask you to think about the following questions. What is an artist? And what is the artist's function in our world? So I asked that question of a close friend of mine who's from Argentina. She's living in Winnipeg now. She's a painter. And I'm going to read you what she had to say about being an artist. She said, being an artist has to do with the manner in which we experience the world with the senses. We are attuned to the nuances of the world in sensitive ways. We can see, hear, taste, and smell just as anyone else does. The only difference is that we notice it more vividly. It is once you have learned how to see the world like an artist that you become an artist. And that has nothing to do with art training. So I wonder if you could think about whether you agree with that definition of an artist or not. Ask yourself what makes you different from other people who do other kinds of work, people who aren't artists. My friend felt that it's in the way we observe the world and witness and experience the world, and ultimately how we express ourselves back to the world. Does anybody have any thoughts about how you define yourself as an artist and how that compares to other kinds of work?
It's a very big question. It requires a bit of thought, but I feel like what you said is pretty spot on. That it doesn't take someone who's formally trained in art or formally recognized as professional or non-professional. It's just more so how you look at your own life or the lives of others in like a creative and visual way, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay, but I have experience to know whether that buzzing is someone speaking. Okay. Was someone trying to speak?
Does someone have something to add? I stepped up, so I missed it. Would you mind repeating the question, Judy?
The question was, how do people define themselves as an artist? In other words, what makes them different from other people who are not practicing art? What qualities, characteristics?
We're going to unmute you, Inguna, if you want to chime in.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was just saying that, like artists, those who are not artists, I would say that they have the ability to get things that they like and apply sort of creative ideas to it and figure out ways to kind of make the world a little bit more colorful through their eyes, if that makes sense. And also I would say that art and media, I think I heard a comment once, someone was saying art and media is the only mirror that society has for itself. So it's in a way, it's like when you make art or music or whatever, it's like so we're kind of a mirror for how the world is in a way. So I think it's really important for those reasons. Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. The way I was just trying to configure my mic. but yes, I have made it. I've arrived. But the question was, what is a definition of an artist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. An artist, to me, is a visual creator who sees a vision within a piece of work. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be their own. It doesn't have to be just videos, pictures alone. It could be music, words, poems, but they have a vision for a piece and they enjoy what they do. Like, of course, the artist has to enjoy what they do, but they have to have like the passion for it. So it's just a visual artist that can perceive life or a situation from a different perspective.
Thank you. You know, this whole notion of seeing the way artists see, I went and saw the movie La La Land on the weekend with a friend, and half through the movie, he wanted to walk out. He was completely frustrated with the plot. He didn't like the quality of the singing and dancing, and yet I couldn't tear my eyes off of it because it was shot. The cinematography was so beautiful, and it was shot in such a beautiful way. The colors, the lights were so gorgeous that, and I'm very much a visual person, I really couldn't take my eyes off the movie. And it helped to overshadow those other deficiencies in the movie, and whether it's acting or what have you. I found that that in and of itself made it a beautiful movie for me, and music also added to it as well. So I'm going to continue on. Thank you for those comments. We're going to have more opportunity to talk a little bit later. When I was doing my creative work, I had lots of fears and doubts about my work. And this is one of my way of leading into the whole idea of challenges. I was in a playwriting class probably about 20 years ago with a very well-known playwright here in Winnipeg, and we were asked to write part of a play. And I was writing a play about a local, sorry? And I was writing a play about a local political figure, Louis Riel, who's very well known in my part of the country. And I guess I wrote 3 or 4 scenes, and we were asked to read them out in class. And after I read mine out in class, the professor looked at me and said, "That's really good. You've got talent." And so what do you think I did when I got home that night from my class? I cried my eyes out. He was complimenting my work, and I should have been excited about that, and yet I felt completely overwhelmed and scared about that, because he was talking about something that was very important to me. It was my own creative work. It was like bearing my own soul, and it almost didn't matter if it was good feedback or bad feedback. I just found it overwhelming and scary. So since that experience, I've been really curious to find out how other artists feel about challenges in their life. Did they experience that same kind of feeling that I did? Did they have any other challenges? And so I've talked to many artists of all ages, and emerging artists and established artists, and from all disciplines. And I have for you a collection of some of the things that they've said about the things that challenge them as artists. So the first one is from a performance artist in Winnipeg who's internationally recognized. And she said, "I think the hardest part is the fear factor involved in saying, this is what I feel or believe. We are so invested in it, care so deeply about it, it is painful to get it out, painful to have it judged. It is scary making art, and there are so many reasons not to." There's a young visual artist I know who also owns an art gallery, and she said this: "Exposing your work and putting it out for people to critique is really exposing who you are. It's like revealing your inner self or walking around nude in a gallery. I make really personal artwork, and at times I fear the response from others. Will they understand?" Another performance artist friend of mine said this: "If art making is your full-time job, living on the edge of poverty and not knowing how the next dollar is going to arrive is the biggest anxiety. There's no salary, no guarantees, no safety net. The hustle is constant." I also have a young contemporary dancer friend who started her own company to showcase her work, and she said this: "It takes a lot of courage to understand that creativity has its own trajectory and that the art reveals itself on its own schedule, regardless of others' expectations. I've postponed many a premiere because I felt the work needed more time. It takes a lot of courage to simply stick to your guns and trust your gut. It takes a lot of courage to be patient." A very successful Winnipeg writer who wrote more than a dozen books in his 30-year career said this: "Courage is needed to carry on in the face of that persistent voice speaking in the background, saying, 'Your work is no good.' Standing up to that voice requires a lot of courage." And finally, the artistic director of one of our large regional theaters said, "It takes the most courage to work outside of one's comfort zone, to dive into a larger or different artistic pond." So from all of that, it was clear to me that artists face some of the same challenges that most entrepreneurs face, or people who are self-employed, like not having a steady paycheck, or having that feeling of financial insecurity, not having benefits, or that social safety net, or working really, really hard, working all the time, the way that entrepreneurs do. But it also is clear from what I was hearing from my artist friends that there are some challenges for artists that are quite particular to artists themselves. So finding something that really matters to you and then believing in it and standing by it. Feeling that others are judging your work, which is really like judging yourself because it's so personal to you. Stretching yourself and going outside your artistic comfort zone. Feeling a lack of recognition or value by the greater community. And beyond that, even feeling opposition from people if what you're saying is not popular or controversial. And I'm thinking, as a good example, the kind of hating that's going on for female gamers, and the kinds of real abuse that they've suffered just because they're in a male-dominated world. So I'm just wondering if any of this sounds familiar to you people in this group. Does anybody want to share any discussion about their own challenges?
Can I go?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I'm sorry to come in late. Like I got really late from school, but now I'm here. Also, I don't know, years ago, I was choosing my major for university. I'm still in my last year of high school, but I really wanted to be a journalist. And then my dad told me think about something that you can make money out of it. And it was oh, okay. So yeah, so I decided to change journalism for to marketing. But then I realized I do like marketing, but I don't like the financial part of marketing. I'm more of the creative part of marketing, advertising. That's what I like about it. So I told my parents, my dad, that it was you know what, I won't be happy in marketing. So I went back to journalism. And I'm yeah, I'm applying to journalism universities everywhere, and let's see where that leads. But,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard when whether your family or other people in society tell you what they think is good for you, and they don't really know. I mean, only you know that for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm really bad at math. Yeah, but I love to write, and I love to create stuff. So yeah, that's one thing that it was you know what, I won't be happy doing that for the rest of my life. So journalism is what I love to do. So that's why.
Great. Anyone else want to talk about some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah. Carrying on from that, I kind of had a similar thing where I've wanted to do film for most of my life, and I left high school at 16 to go to WinTech, and I do that now. But a lot of people, especially the older generation, my grandparents, didn't understand why I was doing it, and they told me that you're not going to get a job and you're not going to get much money doing that because you might not be able to make your own movies or stuff like that. And yeah, and it was kind of hard to hear that from the older people in my life. And yeah, it was really weird, but I've always done what I want to do, so I've continued on to do it, and I'm now doing my bachelor's and majoring in moving image, and yeah.
Do you feel that in the face of hearing that from your family, do you feel it takes courage?
Yeah, because, yeah, and I kind of had to explain myself about why I wanted to do it, and because it makes me happy and I'm so passionate about it. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm a little bit older than the rest of you, and I'm making a big change to go in a creative direction myself. And I'm lucky because I don't have to justify myself to anyone, but I try not to talk too much with others who I don't think will understand, because I don't really want to hear their opposition, especially if they're preoccupied with the notion of money. And many people believe that money flows when you're doing what you love. Is there anyone else?
I'd say I'm kind of in a bit of an opposite situation. So for me, luckily, I had a lot of people in my hometown and my parents be very supportive, and my family saying I do have the skills to make it as a career. Maybe not, I'm not going to have a yacht or anything, but just be able to subside myself. But it's kind of an opposite where I feel like I have a lot of the people to support me, but I'm questioning myself a bit, where it's can I actually make this work? Or with my lifestyle and the things that I like to do, and traveling and just seeing the world, it's am I going to be able to pull it off myself despite the fact that I know that people think that I could. So it's different.
Yeah. So you've got one thing taken care of, and that is the support of others, but then you have a little bit of your own self-doubt. So yeah, it's hard to have it all together across the board. Anybody else? Thank you for that contribution.
Hi. For me, I kind of feel like I'm a bit, I wouldn't say traumatized, but in Germany, you have to do art in school until the beginning of your final 2 years. And so you have to do art, and you can't choose anything else instead. And in Germany, art class is always very focused on, you always have a specific topic, and you learn specific techniques, and you don't really have the freedom to really self-express, which is kind of what you would expect from art class. So you always have those steps to follow, and can't really put much of your own intention into your work. And I always had an art teacher that didn't really like me stepping out of the boundaries that she set for us.
Coloring outside the lines.
Exactly, and she would criticize and always, I mean, I had pretty bad grades in art, and I'm not saying that I was talented or that I was one of the best ones in class, but I did think that I had some very original ideas compared to the rest, and she just didn't really like that, and kind of tried to keep it small for me, and I feel like that kind of still follows me today, where I think, is this good enough, or is this too much, or am I not thinking straight about this? So I feel like in the past, this kind of still is with me when I do something creative, that I always think I think a lot about the criticism that may come from others. So I often overthink because of that experience.
Other people's voices, they're following you around through the years, actually. So it's good for us to be thinking about how we can free ourselves from some of that. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of that freeing ourselves and developing a little bit more solidity and confidence in ourselves. So if you'd allow me, I'm going to just keep on. Thank you so much for sharing those very personal thoughts. That's very difficult, I think, to experience as well as communicate. So I would invite all of you to consider, in the face of these kinds of challenges and whatever other challenges that you may not have talked about but are thinking about and have experienced, that you should think about your world as if it was water. Now, I'm a swimmer. I belong to a master swim team, and it's at a local pool close to my home. And I get up every weekday at 5:15 a.m., and I get to the pool by 6 and meet up with other people like me, actually people way more athletic than me, and we are in the pool from 6 to 7 a.m. every weekday morning. And so while most people are still comfy, cozy in their beds, we are swimming in a cool pool, cold pool sometimes, between 1,500 and 2,000 meters. So most of us don't think this is a very big deal, though, because we are very comfortable in the water, and it's kind of like second nature to us. We just glide easily through the water with ease and speed, and we just kind of take it for granted. And we don't even think about the water itself, aside from the temperature of it, but we really, just trust the water's going to hold us up and support us. But I know a lot of people that don't really enjoy the water at all, and they don't feel comfortable in the water, and they struggle when they're in the water, struggle to stay up. And in extreme cases, people would fight against water. So, a drowning person or someone who's panicking in the water doesn't realize in their panic, and it's an emotional state, that all they'd have to do is turn over on their back and move their hands and feet ever so slightly, and they would stay up in the water very easily. In fact, most of us who are comfortable in the water can just lie on our backs and could live floating there for days if we wanted to. But for those people who are afraid of the water, for those people who see the water as a fearful place or as their enemy, they can easily be defeated by it rather than supported by it. So when I said I think about the universe or your world as water, I think the universe is very much like water. I think when we relax into it, the universe will support us and keep us in a place where we can breathe and move forward. We just have to apply a little bit of effort to move us in a direction or move us forward. But we're supported by this friendly force throughout. And conversely, if we don't see it as a friendly place, if we don't sort of surrender to our universe, but rather panic and fight against it, we could get into trouble and ultimately be consumed by it. So I think that it's important to trust the universe, that it will support us and keep us safe, very much like water will. But it's a kind of a combined effort of trusting and relaxing into it and then being supported by it. So I believe that our thoughts bring into our own world or into our own life what we think about, and that our thoughts become reality. I'm sure you have examples in your own mind of how that happened for you or for others. And if that's the case, if you believe that, then you can choose to believe that the universe is friendly and the universe is abundant. And those thoughts can happen in the face of seeing much evidence to the contrary. There's many people, we've just heard, others have been told by their families, you know, don't go into creative pursuits because that's not going to make you enough money, or you won't be able to make a living with it. You won't be able to live the lifestyle you're seeking. So in that way, there's sort of saying the universe is kind of, it is abundant for all. It's so abundant for certain people. We're seeing, as we turn on the news or go online every day, of hostilities and terrorism and unkind political regimes. There's a change of power in the U.S. right now. It's making everyone nervous. But I think at times like this, it's even more important for us to believe in a friendly, abundant, supportive universe. And I have begun to stop listening to the news as much and have begun to listen to inspirational speakers who are talking very much about what I'm saying today, and it's helped me tremendously. But I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about the abundant universe to just show how it's worked for me. Jay, I'd like the next slide. This is my son, Alexander, who's 17 years old. It's a recent photograph of us that Jay's going to put up in a minute. Yeah, there he is. He's a little bit older than that, but that's our picture. I was trying to get him to pose for a Christmas card picture, and he was not so happy about that, and he was protesting. I've been a single parent of Alex since his birth, and so it's only been my income that has supported us, and I've been working in the arts, and so that's not necessarily a great income. And when I started, right after his birth, I was a consultant in the arts, which is probably even worse and probably even less certain in terms of financial security. So you can imagine that, at times things got quite tough for us financially, or that it became kind of overwhelming for me to take care of the two of us by myself. But I found that trusting that it was a safe and supportive universe helped me a lot in keeping my worry and fear at bay. I don't think that there would be anything to gain by worrying and fretting. I don't think that achieved anything. But beyond that, I was actually going further and trying to believe that everything would be okay all the time. So in addition to that belief system, I also began to rather than ask what the world could do for me and how I was going to get what I needed, I began to extend myself to others and think about how I could contribute to the world, and then just have faith and trust that everything would take care of itself. Several years ago, my best friend Keith, who lives in Toronto, was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. His operation was scheduled for January, and my son and I decided we were going to go see Keith at Christmas time. So we scraped together enough money to get some plane tickets to go down to Toronto. And although it was very financially difficult for us to do this, when I got to the airport and saw my friend, I was really glad we did. He looked pretty rough. He was in the middle of his radiation treatments. So Alex and I stayed with Keith for a couple of days, and then we decided to give him a rest. And so we took the train to Niagara Falls for a few days of our own vacation. And we were due to go back to Toronto on New Year's Eve to spend the New Year's Eve evening with my friend Keith. And although we didn't really say it out loud, we knew this would be a very special New Year's Eve because there was a good chance it might be the last holiday we'd ever spend with one another. So on the day, and of course, what I was really hoping to make it a special New Year's Eve would be to have some nice food, like a nice pizza dinner or Chinese food or something like that, so I could lift my friend's spirits. He didn't have very much money, and so I was taking it upon myself to try to create a nice celebratory evening. But by the time we were due to go back to Toronto from Niagara Falls, by the time that day arrived, I was completely out of money. I had no money in my wallet. I had no money on my credit cards. I had no money in my account. I wasn't due to be paid until January 1st, the next day. So all day New Year's Eve, I would have no money. And I had no idea how I was going to make this nice New Year's Eve dinner happen. But, you know, somehow I trusted that it would happen. I just visualized that I would get back to Toronto and we'd be fine. So I went down to the business center in the hotel, which is just like a little office that has computers in it to allow the hotel guests to check their emails and things. So I went down there to check on the train schedule, and I got into the office. It was a very small office with a counter running around the outside of it and 2 or 3 computers, and that's all there were, with some chairs and computers and countertop. No one else was in there. So I sat down and I spent about 15 or 20 minutes checking my emails and checking the train schedule. And then I got up to leave, and I was picking my purse up and making sure I had my room key, and I looked over, and just off to the side of where I was working, there was a $20 bill sitting on the counter. It had not been there when I got there, because surely I would have noticed it. So I turned around and I noticed there was a man sitting in a chair at the other computer. And I said to him, "Is this your money?" And he said, "No." And I thought, okay. I put the $20 bill in my wallet and I left. Now, if that man actually had left the money there, that would have been just as miraculous as if the money had fallen from heaven, because there was no way of knowing I needed that money. It was a fairly expensive hotel, and I wasn't exactly begging for money. I was minding my own business at the computer, visualizing a nice dinner in Toronto, and $20 bill just appeared on the counter. So needless to say, I went back to Toronto on the train, and we had a lovely pizza dinner, and it was a very memorable New Year's Eve. Now, in the years since that happened, I've gotten better jobs, and I don't face as many hard times, but occasionally, now and then, I will get back behind that financial 8-ball, and this Christmas was another one of those times where I had to pay for the last installment of my son's first-year university tuition, and after writing that big check in December, I was completely out of money, and there was 2 weeks to go until my next paycheck. And I really didn't know how I was going to buy the rest of my Christmas presents or how I was going to buy the food to make my Christmas meals. But again, having had good experiences in the past, I just simply had faith that everything would take care of itself. And again, I chose to focus on how I could extend myself to others. So in those weeks leading up to Christmas, my son and I volunteered at a local soup kitchen. I continued to give little bits of money to people on the street. I gave, you know, like $5 bills at a time, which to them was large amounts of money. To me, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't large amounts. And I engaged in, you know, meaningful conversations with the people on the street asking me for money. So the Friday before Christmas, my director of the art gallery here took all of us senior managers for drinks and hors d'oeuvres at a local restaurant. And it's a tradition that we do this every single year. This year was I particularly appreciated it because I know that our art gallery is under some financial constraints right now. We've been in the midst of budget cuts for months now, and we know that our belts are tightening absolutely everywhere. So we had a very nice evening, and we were celebrating all of the good things that have happened in the last year, despite that it hasn't worked out as well financially as we would have liked. So my boss gave me a Christmas card before I left the restaurant, and I put it in my purse and opened it in the car to be discreet. And there inside the card were 3 large bills. And that money basically what made me able to afford the rest of the Christmas presents and food that I needed until the end of the year, until my next paycheck. So all of this to say, I've seen wonderful evidence of the universe providing its support. Just like that water provides me support every morning when I swim. The universe is always moving to fulfill our highest visions for ourselves. And it's just really important to keep your vision in mind, keep it in the front of your mind, and ask the universe for it. And then just find out ways you can contribute in your own way to the good of society, to the good of the rest of us. But I guess the question becomes, how do we stay calm and trust the way I've described that I've been trusting? How do we kind of stay on course? And I've got 2 words for you, and those words are get quiet. Now, most people my age believe that babies are born these days coming out of the womb with their telephones basically grafted to their hands. Every time we see young people walking around, their heads are buried in their phones, and they're completely absorbed in what's going on. And even when they go out for recreation, it's Pokemon Go, and, and it's still involved with their phones. It's hard to believe that just 10 years ago, Steve Jobs and Apple introduced the very first iPhone to the market. And, you know, I'm a late adopter of these devices. My iPhone I didn't get until about 4 years ago. And growing up, you know, we had 7 people in my family, and we had one telephone. And that telephone was fixed to the wall, hanging in the wall in the kitchen, and it was to be used by all members of the family. And my dad watched it like a hawk and would tell us to get off the phone after so many minutes because, you know, that phone was there to be shared by everyone. And in fact, it was to be shared by our neighbors because our phone line was what's called a party line, which means that 3 or 4 families would be on the same phone line. And someone from an entirely different household could be using the phone at a given time. So from those very humble telephone beginnings, I am now using my iPhone 6. And my life is completely transformed. So I'm obsessed with my iPhone too. You know, I wake up to this beautiful tinkling alarm on my phone that I chose from amongst thousands of ringtones. I use my flashlight when I'm showering instead of the overhead light so that I can have a soft light source to wake up to. I send my sleeping son a text before he even wakes up, telling him about our day's details. When I'm drying my hair and putting on my makeup, I'm usually listening to inspirational talk on YouTube. I check the weather on my weather apps, and sometimes I listen to my CBC app for a little bit of news during breakfast, and then I check my schedule before I go into the office on my phone. And at the office, I'm on my phone communicating with my colleagues or checking the time or doing some, you know, on-the-spot research. And I even dictated this talk into the notes section of my iPhone, which converted my voice into typewritten words, which I think is a total miracle. So you and I are having more information thrown at us at any other time in human history. The information's continuously rolling on our phones and consuming a huge amount of our time and our brain space. So also, you know, just the fact that that information is coming at us and we feel compelled to look at it, but a huge amount of it is negative information. It doesn't feed our human spirit. It doesn't promote trust in others or the universe. It doesn't make us feel safe. There's news about terrorism. There's news about Trump. There's news about everything, natural disasters. There's news about all kinds of discrimination and sexism and racism, things that just make us feel, make our spirits kind of droop. So if we're going to be courageous artists, we need to have faith and trust, and we need to remember that water analogy and trust the universe. So I would suggest that one of those ways we can do that is to do it how generations of human beings have done it, and that is to get quiet and get close to our source. And in your case, you are doing projects that require you to think carefully about society, to think about how society can change and improve, how we can play a part in doing that. So that requires contemplation, and I think we have to start by shutting down our phones, shutting down that chatter, that source of chatter, and then we have to cut the chatter that's in our brains, because that continues on after the chatter around us stops. So that's chatter that we aren't good enough, it's chatter that we won't have enough money, chatter that we're not safe and secure, chatter that, you know, the world is not going to be a friendly, welcoming place for us as we grow older. So how do we do that? You know, there's a lot of things you can think about doing if you don't already do. You know, there's very traditional things that a lot of people have done for years, going into their synagogue or their church. There's lots of writings, spiritual writings, that help us, from the Tao Te Ching to the Bible to the Quran to many, many others. But some of us have chosen yoga or Tai Chi or meditation. I've tried some of our indigenous traditions like the Sweat Lodge, very, very much a contemplative place because it's dark and quiet and hot and contemplative. I think we each have to choose a way that we can have a daily practice, daily habits of going inside and getting close to our source, whether you your higher self, or you see the source as a higher on the news, limiting what I'm hearing. I mean, I was happy to hear Obama's closing speeches and some of those fun things like giving the Chicago Cubs you know, having sort of awards go back and forth with the Chicago Cubs. I am not necessarily going to listen to the inauguration. I'm worried and fearful every time I listen to that scenario, just as there are many scenarios around the world. I don't need to pick on the American situation. And instead, I go to YouTube every day and I do a guided meditation, and I listen to Wayne Dyer, D-Y-E-R. He's since deceased, but his work lives on. And there's many, many, many spiritual leaders out there, or enlightened leaders who you can listen to and get a perspective on. So I'm going to just open the floor for some discussion. I mean, it's gotten a little bit serious, but I'm kind of wondering what other people have done or feel that they might want to do in order to get quiet and to try to tune in a little bit more. I can tell you even that my swimming practice has turned into that, so that what would normally be just boring laps of the pool, I'm sending good energy to my loved ones, I'm sending good energy to myself, and I'm contemplating. And I get ideas in the pool all the time, but, you know, for people who need, I call it prayers in the pool. For people who need prayers or good energy sent to them, I do that for them, and I really believe it works. And even if it doesn't really work, I feel happier doing it. So this isn't meant to be a talk that endorses one thing over another. It's just meant to give you a perspective and some encouragement that some of these things can really work. They're intensely personal. What practice works for you is intensely personal, but I think what's important is to develop a practice, because that will go along with your artistic practice, with your actual skill building and your actual production, but that will help inject perspective, I think, and courage into what you're doing. So I wonder if anyone feels like commenting or responding to that.
I can say something.
Sure.
I know for me personally, right now, I'm kind of going through a bit of a slump in art in general. And it was kind of like losing a bit of motivation to, you know, create daily, because being a freelance artist, also going to school for art, and then, you know, doing, you know, out of school things like this, it's great that you have the opportunities, but sometimes, you know, to sit down and mentally create something new every day, and you have to, you know, it gets to a point where you just like, you don't care anymore, or you physically can't do it, or, you know, you just want to go play video games, or like just go longboarding or something, and you don't even, you know, care anymore. So I feel like sometimes it might be healthy to just stop for a while.
It sounds like you need to fill your cup back up.
So I know for me, it's like, obviously I can't stop right now because I'm in the middle of classes and, you know, in the middle of work, but I feel that I need to just like kind of prepare myself to do absolutely nothing, you know, for like even like a week, and just, you know, literally do nothing, and just kind of like float yourself. And I'm hoping that will happen in the summer, because it can't happen right now, but hopefully soon. So I feel like completely stopping, you know, in a good way, not just like giving up, but just like giving yourself some time to kind of, you know, not add any more jobs.
Yeah, I think if you can find a way to get out in nature or find something that you might find good to read, inspirational, or listen to, whether it's music or just move your body, I mean, just any way that you feel might help just fill you back up again, because it feels like it sounds to me like you're a bit depleted.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a common problem.
Yeah, I feel like other people have had that as well. So.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
Anybody else?
I would like to share something.
Sure.
Like for the past 2 years, I've been working like so hard, like in school. I've never been like this outstanding student, but like I've dreamed and studied like in the US or abroad, like my university years. So like to me, it was like, okay, so I have like to put a lot of effort in school to at least have like a grade like GPA or something like that, like keep up the good grades. And unfortunately, like I applied to my dream school like this fall, and I didn't got in. So it was like a rough couple of weeks, I think. Like right now I'm getting back like to the point, you know what, like I apply like to another like 5 universities. But yeah, like I think like I put like all my effort to that university, and somehow like I don't know, um I got like to a point that I think that I wasn't enough to you know, like I wasn't good enough to that university. But now like it's just like accepting that maybe it just wasn't meant to be, that something's better, like something better is waiting for me. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think that's a great perspective to have, is to say there's a reason this didn't work out and something better is coming along. And I think I can look back on my life so many times where I was so disappointed that a relationship didn't work out, or a job that I wanted, or what have you. And then when you look back and you say, oh, but that other thing came along and it was better, you know?
Yeah. And like at the beginning, it's just like, it's like a harsh energy, like because you just start like blaming yourself.
Yeah.
But then like, I don't know, like it takes time to heal, something like that. Yeah.
What's helping you in
yeah.
your healing process?
Like it was holidays, and like my family always been like very supportive. Also like my English teacher, like she told me, you know what, like it wasn't meant to be. Like something better is waiting for you. And I started like looking into colleges, like more options. And I don't know, I'm just happy that maybe something else or something better will come along. And
For sure.
yeah.
For sure. That's a great attitude.
Yeah.
But it does hurt, I know. You got to get through that.
It does.
Anybody else?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. But with me, it's kind of like the opposite. I wouldn't say the complete opposite, but I've kind of been through that stage where everything was kind of overwhelming, content creating, doing what I was doing, living with life, and of course I had to take a big step out, and I had to take a break from my own mind, because it's very harming when you want to do certain things and it's either taking long, you feel like you're not getting anywhere, or your patience is not quite there, or you get rejected for certain things. And I've been at those points. Like I've been rejected from one of my college courses for creative media, and I got rejected from uni as well for a media course as well, which is very, very ironic because I'm working with Adobe right now, so it's just like in your face after those many years. But,
yeah.
but doors do generally close. Now, when a door kind of closes for me, I kind of think to myself, okay, that door's kind of closed now. So what could I do that could be better, or what can I do to better myself now? Because my mum always taught me as one door closes, another one opens, and I didn't really understand that until I was at my own crisis in my life. And of course, you kind of understand that more when you go through the bad periods. But now, like when something doesn't go the way I plan it to go, it doesn't go right, it's just like my mindset is, okay, this didn't happen. How can I improve now? What can I do better? Okay, if this didn't work out, then I'm going to work harder in the things that I can do so I can have better successes or better chances, and through that, something's going to generate or manifest and come to me. So I kind of went through that stage already.
Yes. It sounds like you folks are getting really good advice from your families or your teachers.
Well, yeah, family, everything played a role more towards about 2-3 years ago, but it was only when, well, with content creation, it's generally a thing of where when people see your work, that's when they kind of want to believe in you. When people can see the consistency, your effort, and how much time and work you're putting into it, and then that's when more support really kicks in. But generally, my parents have been supportive. But if I was to tell them, yeah, I wanted to do certain things at teenage years, they probably would have thought it was more foolish than it is now.
Yeah.
But
your belief in yourself grows, and that's what they're picking up on as well.
Yeah, and to say the least, my family are very proud of me. Actually, a lot of people are proud of me around me. So
very nice, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. Do we have anyone else? Thank you for sharing. Do we have anyone else who'd like to share?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so, like, my thing was, at the beginning of, like, I'm in my first year of high school, and my brother went to an art school, and, like, forever I thought that I would go to that art school with, like, my best friend. And then in the summer, she said that, like, she didn't want to go to that school anymore. And I, like, I don't know, like, then I just, like, didn't want to go to the art school anymore. And there's, like, a school right beside my house. So I just, like, I thought that I would go there instead.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized, like, that I was doing it for my friends and not for me. And so now I go to the art school, and it was, like, the best decision I've ever made. And, like, I get to spend time with my brother, and I met so many new friends. And so, yeah, so I, like, it was, like, I thought that, like, everything, like, this sounds dramatic, but I thought that, like, everything was over, and, like, I just felt, like, really sad for the whole summer. But, yeah, it ended up, like, I really liked the art school, and, like, right now I'm, like, sketching, like, on the side of my page, and, like, I probably wouldn't be doing that if I didn't go to the art school. So, yeah, so I'm really happy about that.
Well, so we see situations where something we think is going bad is not. My son, who you see in this photo, I asked him to go to a private school in grade 7, and he was leaving all of his friends from elementary school, and he thought it was going to be a disaster. And now in hindsight, he looks back and says that those are the best teachers he could have had in his life, and so he thought it was a good assistance.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Harmony.
Hey, I am in Brazil. We don't have so much, I don't know, value with art and this stuff, and I always like it. So I think about giving up of arts and focus on other things. But the universe always brings me art as a concept. And people always asking me, oh, can you edit this photo for me? Or can you do this logo for me? And the universe always brings me art, need for art back.
And so that's what you're meant to do.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Matthias. Anyone else? Well, I know because we are over time. I thank all of you for your contributions. I had one quote that I was going to read you, but I'll ask Jane to put the quote out. She can send it to you by email. And it's Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I hope I pronounced that correctly for those Germans on the line. And this is a quote by someone who said this over 200 years ago. And actually, I will read it because I love this quote. So, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning the acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence, or the universe, moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance which no person could have dreamt would come their way. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness, or I say courage, has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. So begin it now is probably a good way for us to go into the new year, thinking about those projects we want to begin, thinking about those practices or beliefs that we want to begin that are going to help us move forward. So I thank all of you. I'm delighted to have met you today. Even though I can't see all of your pictures, I have them in a file here that was sent to me, and I feel very close to you. I thank you all for your participation today, and I give you my very, very best wishes for your projects in the future, for not only the projects you're working on for Adobe, but for the ones you're going to do well into the future. I know we've got a very good group of future successes amongst us. So thank you to Taking It Global for having me today, and I hope to be able to speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Judy, and thank you to all of the community advisors for participating and sharing such awesome stories and perspectives and experiences. Tanya and I and Bruno were just saying that, you know, we should do more of this, have more opportunities for you guys to share some of your challenges and experiences and highlights and all of that great stuff. So thank you, Judy, for kind of sparking that in us and giving us the first taste of what that might look like. So yeah, like Judy said, it's a new year and we're really, really excited to be working with all of you and to see, you know, what comes out of all of this. You guys have been such an awesome source of inspiration for us all so far, and we're excited to see where this takes us. So thank you. And I guess with that, have a wonderful evening, morning, night, and don't forget that tomorrow we have the Creative Scholarship session at 4 p.m. ET, same as always. Yeah, with that, I will see you guys later. Thank you so much, Judy.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you.